It's December, and you can't remember August. Not because you weren't there. Not because nothing happened. But because when you try to reach back, there's just texture. A feeling. The sense that time passed, but no actual days you can hold on to. Spring exists only as a concept. Summer is a blur of the same temperatures. Fall never announced itself. And now it's winter, and you're looking back at a year that feels like it lasted 3 weeks. You didn't lose time. Something worse happened. The year occurred, all of it, every single day, but your brain never wrote it down. And now you're standing at the end of 12 months you can't account for, holding a calendar full of days that feel like they never materialized. This isn't memory loss. This is something more architectural. And it's been happening to more people than you realize. There's a cognitive phenomenon that doesn't get talked about enough. It doesn't have a popular name, which is maybe why it feels so isolating when it happens to you. But it's been studied. It's been measured. And it explains exactly why this year, and maybe last year, and maybe the year before that, feels like it never really happened. Your memory doesn't record time. It records change. Let me say that again, because it's the foundation of everything else. Your brain doesn't save days. It doesn't catalog hours. What it does is encode moments when something was different than it was before. When your environment shifts. When your routine breaks. When something unexpected forces you to pay attention. Think about childhood summers. Why did they feel endless? Not because time moved slower. Not because you were more present, though that's what people usually say. It's because every day was structurally different from the one before it. Different activities, different places, different people. Your brain was constantly encoding new information, and that created the sensation of time expanding. Now think about last month. What do you remember? If you're struggling, it's not because you weren't paying attention. It's because nothing changed enough to be worth encoding. You were in the same locations. Following the same routines. Having the same types of conversations. And when your brain scans for something to save, it finds nothing it hasn't already filed away. So it doesn't save it. The days happen. You live through them. But they don't become memories. They become a kind of ambient texture, like background noise that played while you were waiting for something to begin. And here's what makes this dangerous: you don't notice it's happening until you try to look back. Until someone asks what you did this year, or you sit down to reflect, or you're filling out one of those end-of-year questionnaires, and you realize you have almost nothing to report. The year didn't disappear. You were there for all of it. But you were living in a way that made time invisible. If this is landing, let me know in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Because what I'm about to describe is going to sound familiar. But I don't think you've ever heard it named. There's a reason this year felt different. And it's not just you. It's not just me. It's structural. Something about the way we've been living has made our lives fundamentally incapable of creating the kind of change that memory needs to encode time. Let me start with the most obvious thing: environmental sameness. For a lot of people, the primary location of their life hasn't changed in years. Same apartment. Same house. Same neighborhood. Same route to the same places. And I'm not saying you need to move to feel like time is passing, that's not the point. The point is that when your environment is static, when you wake up in the same room and look at the same walls and walk the same paths, your brain stops treating each day as a distinct event. It's the same place. So it must be the same day. That's the logic your memory uses. And it gets worse when you factor in how much of our lives now happen in completely placeless environments. How much time do you spend in locations that could be anywhere? Coffee shops with the same industrial lighting. Offices with the same gray carpets. Airports. Chain stores. Digital spaces that have no physical coordinates at all. You're living, but you're not inhabiting space in a way that leaves a mark. Then there's the routine loop. And this is where it gets strange, because routines are supposed to be stabilizing. They're supposed to give structure to your days. But here's what no one tells you: routines don't create memory. Disruptions do. If you do the same thing at the same time in the same order every single day, your brain stops encoding it. It recognizes the pattern and says, I already know this. I don't need to save it again. It's efficient. It's how we're wired. But it also means that the more consistent your routine, the less your brain bothers to record. You think you're building a stable life. What you're actually doing is erasing the days as they happen. I started noticing this with my mornings. Coffee in the same mug. Same chair. Same screen. And I couldn't tell you the difference between a Monday morning in March and a Thursday morning in October. They're the same morning, repeated hundreds of times, until they collapse into a single generic experience that my brain filed under morning and never revisited. The weekends don't help anymore either. There used to be a rhythm to the week. Monday felt different from Friday. Saturday had a texture. Sunday had weight. But somewhere along the way, that distinction dissolved. The days just continue. One into the next. No punctuation. No paragraph breaks. When every day is available for work, no day feels like rest. When every day is technically free, no day feels like freedom. The boundaries that used to give time its shape, they're gone. And without them, the week becomes a flat line. Seasonal markers collapsed too. It used to be that you could feel the year turning. Spring arrived and you changed your clothes, opened the windows, went outside more. Summer had a rhythm. Fall had a smell. Winter had a weight. But now? Climate control. Indoor living. The same artificial temperature year-round. You know it's winter because the calendar says so. Not because anything in your immediate experience has changed. And then there's the digital timelessness. This is the part that's harder to see, but it might be the most important. When you spend hours inside apps and platforms and screens, you're spending time in environments that have no temporal cues. No morning light. No evening shadows. No seasonal shifts. Just an endless scroll of content that could have been posted 5 minutes ago or 5 months ago, and you'd never know the difference. Your brain is trying to build a timeline, but the information it's receiving contains no timestamps. Everything feels recent. Everything feels distant. Nothing feels like it happened at a specific moment in a specific season of a specific year. We're living in a state of what I'd call continuous present. Not in a meditative, mindful way. In a disorienting way. The past doesn't feel past because we're constantly re-encountering it through feeds and recommendations. The future doesn't feel future because it's always being described in the same urgent, immediate terms. And the present doesn't feel present because we're always half somewhere else, half watching, half listening, never fully in the room we're sitting in. Time needs separation to exist. It needs before and after. It needs yesterday to be clearly distinct from today. But we've built an environment where everything blurs. Where the same content circulates forever. Where the same conversations repeat on different days with different people and you can't remember if you already had this thought or if someone else did. You're not living through time anymore. You're living in a kind of temporal soup, where everything that's ever happened is sort of happening all at once, in no particular order, with no clear beginning and no clear end. And your brain, which evolved to track change, to notice difference, to encode the arc of days and seasons, it has nothing to work with. So it stops trying. The year didn't fail to happen. Your life just stopped giving your brain the raw material it needs to construct a sense of time passing. Here's where this stops being an interesting cognitive quirk and starts being something you can feel in your chest. When years disappear, you lose more than memories. You lose the sense that your life is progressing. That you're moving forward. That time is carrying you somewhere, even if you don't know where. There's a specific kind of panic that sets in when you realize you can't account for where the time went. It's not like forgetting a password or losing your keys. It's more like looking at a bank statement and seeing that months of deposits just vanished. And the worst part is that you can't even say you were unhappy. It was just fine. Comfortable enough that you didn't notice it was erasing itself as it went. This is what I mean when I say this isn't harmless. Memory is how you construct a sense of self over time. It's how you know you're not the same person you were 5 years ago. When the memories stop forming, you stop having evidence of your own progression. And without that evidence, you start to feel stuck. And that's why this feeling hits hardest at the end of the year. Not because something failed, but because nothing stuck. I don't have an answer for this. I'm not going to give you steps. This is just the naming. The articulation. The year happened. But it didn't accumulate. And maybe that's the real question. Not how to remember better. But how to live in a way that's worth remembering.